You are listening to Fictional Radio Broadcast, live reports from fictional events. This broadcast is a work of fiction created for entertainment purposes. What follows is a dramatized scenario.
If you can hear this signal, step away from the window. Do not answer the sound at the glass. It has been raining for 19 hours and 40 minutes, and somewhere between the 8th hour and the 12th, the rain stopped behaving like weather. This is AM 1720. This is Fictional Radio Broadcast. You are listening because your other stations have gone quiet, and I am staying on air because mine has not. Not yet. My name is Daniel Hale. I usually take the overnight desk on Wednesdays, not Mondays. I came in early because the woman who handles the evening rotation, Marley, did not answer her phone, and the station manager did not want a dead hour on the frequency during a storm advisory. That was the reason I gave myself in the parking lot. It is not, I think, the whole reason. The roads were already shining under the streetlights when I pulled in. The rain was not heavy enough to frighten anyone. It was not violent, it was not wind-driven. It was not the kind of rain that makes you turn the car around. It was just there, on the windshield, on the station roof, on the tower fence, on every surface with the same patient sound. I will try, for as long as this transmission holds, to keep two categories separate. There is what has been confirmed by an agency, an instrument, or a person I can name, and there is everything else. I will tell you which is which. I will not guess out loud. If I have to guess, I will say the word guess before I do it. That is the promise I can make you tonight. At this hour, the confirmed information is simple. The rain across Merrill County, Hartwell County, Clearwater County, and parts of the lower Eastwater Basin has not stopped. Some roads are flooding, some creeks are rising, some public agencies are behind schedule, and a growing number of reports now describe rainfall that is not following wind, not following slope, not following radar, and not behaving randomly. That last part is why we are on the air. It is 8:30 on a Monday evening, and the rain across Merrill County has now entered its 19th consecutive hour. That is not by itself remarkable. The Hartwell Basin has had longer storms. In 1994, a system parked over the western ridge for 26 hours and dropped almost 9 inches on the low fields. Farmers still talk about it. Public Works still trains new crews with photographs from that week. There are bridges in this county that have plaques because of that flood, so I want to begin carefully. A long rain is not impossible. A flooded road is not impossible. A tired dispatcher, a delayed advisory, a bad gauge, a nervous caller, a dog refusing the yard. None of these things is impossible. The unusual part tonight is not the duration. It is the shape. The National Weather Cooperative issued a standard flood watch at 4 this afternoon. That watch was upgraded to an advisory at 6:15. The advisory has not changed since. I am looking at the text of it now. It uses the phrase, steady precipitation. It uses the phrase, persistent low-pressure ridge. Both are ordinary. Both were written, according to the timestamp, by a human forecaster in the Cooperative's regional office at Bracken Mill. Her name is on the bottom of the page. I am not going to read it, because she has not consented to become part of this broadcast, and because it is not the kind of night when I want to say a stranger's name into a live signal unless there is a clear reason to do so. Here at the station, the rain has been consistent. Not heavy, not light, consistent. That is the word our overnight engineer Ellery used when I asked him to describe it. He said it sounds like a shower head someone forgot to turn off. He said it has sounded that way since he arrived at 3 this afternoon. He does not remember it getting louder. He does not remember it getting quieter, he said, and I am only repeating this because he laughed when he said it. It's like the rain is on a loop. Traffic on Route 9 is slow but moving. The Merrill County Sheriff's Dispatch has logged 4 minor accidents since noon, all of them low speed, all of them without injury. The Clearwater County line has one closed road at the culvert near Tallow Creek, where standing water has covered the low span. That closure went into effect at 7 o'clock. It is expected to remain in effect until the water recedes. The water is not receding. That, on its own, is not strange. Standing water takes time, but I want to note it now, at the top of the broadcast, because it will matter later, and I would rather you hear it from me while the rooms in your house are still well lit. At 8:17 p.m., the Merrill County Office of Emergency Management posted a routine update to its Public Advisory Board. The statement reads, "Precipitation across the county remains steady. No flooding beyond seasonal expectations has been reported. Residents in low-lying areas are reminded to monitor local streams and avoid unnecessary travel after dark. No evacuation orders are in effect. No shelters have been opened." That is the kind of update that gets written once a season and copied forward. There is nothing alarming in it. What is unusual is the file history. The update was posted at 8:17 p.m. The internal metadata says it was created at 4:12 p.m., 4 hours before it was posted. That is not sinister by itself. Somebody may have written a draft and scheduled it. Anyone who has worked around public offices knows that happens. But it means the advisory telling residents the rain is steady and nothing is wrong was written before the rain completed half of its current run. The advisory is confirmed. It is real. It was published by a real office. It is also, in a small and quiet way, already out of date. We are going to stay with confirmed information tonight. But I want you to keep in the back of your mind one question. It is the question I am keeping in the back of mine. When was the last time you heard the rain change? At approximately 7:50 this evening, a caller reached the station's public line. She lives on Willow Bank Road, along the eastern edge of Gray Hollow Valley. She asked to speak to whoever was on air. Ellery took the call, transcribed her account, and passed it to me before I sat down at the desk. I am going to read from his transcription, not from a recording, because we do not put callers on the live signal without permission. According to her account, she stepped out onto her covered porch at approximately 7:40 to bring in a wind chime she had forgotten. The chime, she said, was still. The rain was falling. The wind was moving in the branches above her porch, but the chime, which hangs directly under an open section of the eave, was not moving. She reached up and touched it. She said it was dry. She then noticed that her dog, a 15-year-old retriever named Bishop, would not step down from the porch. Bishop is, in her words, not a smart dog anymore. He walks into walls. He forgets where his water bowl is. But tonight, she said, Bishop stood at the top step, put one paw on the wet wood, and then backed up. He did this 3 times. On the 4th attempt, he sat down and would not stand again. She wanted us to know because she had lived on that road for 31 years, and Bishop had never once refused the yard. I am reporting this the way it was reported to me. I am not calling it evidence of anything. Old dogs behave strangely in storms. Wind chimes hang wrong. Porches have blind spots where rain does not reach. Every one of those explanations is available. I want you to have them. But I also want to note, for the record, that in the 40 minutes since her call, 2 other households along the same road have called with observations that are not identical, but share one small detail. In all 3 houses, an animal that had never done so before refused to go outside tonight. At 8:03 p.m., a maintenance technician at the old Bracken Mill water tower logged a structural noise report. He was on the lower service platform checking a rusted ladder bracket. The tower has not held water in 11 years. It is sealed at the top. The lower inspection port was locked. The technician heard what he described as rain falling inside the empty tank. He assumed water had entered through a seam. That would have been ordinary. The county sent a second worker. The second worker heard it too. When they unlocked the inspection port, no water drained out. The inside of the tank was dry. The sound continued for 42 seconds after the port was opened. Then it stopped. At the time, it was logged as structural noise. Old metal expands. Condensation forms. Wind moves through cavities. A hollow tank can make a hollow sound. But at 8:11 p.m., the custodian at Eastwater Elementary reported the same sound from a locked classroom. Rain on ceiling tiles. Rain on desks. Rain on paper. When she opened the door, the room was dry. The windows were closed. The ceiling tiles were dry. The sound continued until she stepped fully into the room. Then it stopped at once. At 8:19 p.m., staff preparing the Clearwater High School gym as a possible shelter reported hearing rain from the center of the basketball court. The roof above the gym is intact. There was no visible leak. There was no water on the floor. The sound came from the floorboards. One staff member recorded it. The recording has been forwarded to the county communications office. I have not heard the full recording. I have heard the first 8 seconds. It sounds like rain striking wood. Then beneath that, very faintly, there is a second pattern. Not thunder. Not footsteps, not machinery, something like water answering itself. That is not a technical description. It is the closest language I have. At 8:24 p.m., the county released its second public update. The statement reads, "The current rainfall event remains under active monitoring. Residents should continue standard flood precautions. There is no evidence at this time of hazardous airborne material, dam failure, industrial release, or seismic activity. Reports of unusual rainfall sounds inside structures are being investigated." That was 6 minutes ago. Since then, 2 more structures have reported the same sound. One is the basement of the courthouse. The other is the transmitter shed behind this building. I am going to be very precise. No water has entered the broadcast room. No equipment is currently in danger. Our engineer is checking the transmitter shed now. If that changes, we will tell you. The first reassurance has already become incomplete. That is not the same as false, but it is no longer enough. At 8:32 p.m., the first radar contradiction appeared. The primary weather radar showed a heavy rain band over the western half of Hartwell County. Secondary radar from the state network showed the same band 12 miles east. private aviation radar showed almost no defined band at all. That happens sometimes. Radar can be distorted, terrain can interfere, rainfall estimates can vary, but the ground gauges did not vary. They all climbed together, not equally. Together, 7 independent gauges recorded a rise at the same minute, then a pause, then a rise again. The pattern was too clean for a moving storm. A moving storm crosses places at different times. It does not press down on the map all at once. At 8:40 p.m., the hydrology office ran a calibration test. 3 gauges were temporarily removed from the public feed. Those gauges continued reporting. That sentence should not make sense. A disconnected field gauge should not send new rainfall data. The office has not confirmed whether the data came from the gauge hardware, from a cache, or from a server-side error. But the disconnected gauges reported the same interval as the connected gauges. 1.72 seconds between pulses, then 4 shorter intervals, then silence, then repeat. At home, before I drove to the station tonight, my daughter had left a folded paper boat on the kitchen table. She does that when it rains. She makes boats out of grocery receipts, napkins, envelopes, anything she can fold. She told me once that rain is only scary if the boat does not know where it is going. I mention that only because many of you listening have children awake right now. Some are frightened by the storm. Some are excited by it. Some are asking questions adults cannot answer yet. For now, give them simple answers. The rain is heavy. We are staying inside. We are listening for instructions. Do not tell children the rain is unusual unless you need to. Not yet. At 8:56 p.m., Ellery confirmed the transmitter shed behind this building is dry. He also confirmed that the rain sound inside the shed did not come from the roof. The roof noise was present, as expected, but there was another sound under it. He described it as rain falling in a room below the floor. There is no room below the floor. The shed sits on a concrete pad. When he shut off the monitor speaker inside the shed, the lower sound stopped. When he turned the monitor speaker back on, the sound resumed after 4 seconds. That is the first time this event has touched broadcast equipment directly. The communications office is asking stations in the region to keep transmitter power stable and avoid unnecessary test tones. We are operating normally. We are not playing tones. We are not cycling equipment unless directed. We are not changing the carrier. If you hear distortion, do not assume it is your receiver. At 9 p.m., the courthouse clock chimed. Listeners in at least 4 neighborhoods reported hearing the chime over the rain, even though they live too far away to hear the courthouse clock directly. That could be broadcast bleed. That could be phone notification audio. That could be people primed to hear patterns, but one of the neighborhoods was without power, and one report came from a parked ambulance with its radio disabled. The paramedic wrote that the rain on the windshield chimed 9 times, not the clock. The rain. Then it returned to the interval. The storm is no longer simply falling, it is carrying timing, and timing is the first skeleton of a message. It is 9:30 p.m. The rain has been falling for 20 hours and 40 minutes. Since the last segment, this station has received 12 additional calls. I am not going to read all 12. I am going to describe the one detail that connects them, because that detail is now the reason I am staying at this desk, instead of going home to check on my daughter, who is 9 years old and asleep, I hope, at my mother's house on the north side of Hartwell. I will come back to her. I mention her now because I want to be honest about why my hands are steadier than they were an hour ago. When you have someone to be calm for, you become calm. That is not a virtue. It is a mechanism. The detail is this: 9 of the 12 callers, without being asked, described the rain in terms of rhythm, not weather, not volume. Rhythm. One caller from Orchard Vale said it sounded like a metronome that had been going for so long she had stopped hearing it, then noticed she had stopped hearing it, and then could not stop hearing it again. Another caller, from a farm outside Bracken Mill, said she counted the drops on her tin roof for a full minute and got the same number twice in a row. She counted a third time to be sure. The number was the same. A piano teacher on Willowbank Road described the rain as a bar of music without a song. Her phrase, "not ours." She said the rain had been ordinary background noise all afternoon. Soft, uneven, layered. Then it tightened. Every impact on the glass arrived with the spacing of a metronome. Not perfectly, not mechanically enough to frighten someone immediately, just enough for a person trained in rhythm to look up from the page. She counted. 1, 2, 3, 4, then a longer gap, then again. 1, 2, 3, 4, then a longer gap. I want to be careful here. Human beings are pattern finders. In a long storm, we hear things in the noise. That is not new. The atmospheric chemist I am about to mention will remind us of that, and she is right to remind us. But the callers were not prompted. They were not comparing notes. They were, in the ordinary sense of the word, alone, and they all reached for the same word, rhythm. I stepped out onto the loading dock behind the studio about 10 minutes ago. The dock is covered, but the rain was falling 6 feet in front of me, hitting the pavement in a way I have heard rain fall my entire life. I listened for 2 minutes. I do not want to tell you what I heard, because I do not fully trust it, and I told you at the top of this broadcast that I would not guess out loud. I will only say that when I came back inside, Ellery looked at me and asked if I had heard it too. I did not answer him. He did not ask again. At 9:36 p.m., the state weather liaison confirmed that rainfall is no longer matching cloud cover. That does not mean there are clear skies above the whole county. There are not. The sky remains heavily overcast across most of the listening area, but satellite imaging shows breaks in the cloud deck over Haversham Ridge, North Orchard Vale, and parts of Merrow County. Ground reports from those same locations still show heavy rain. A state meteorologist used the phrase, "falling through clear air." That phrase has not been included in a public advisory. We are using it because it describes the data. Rain can fall from clouds that have moved on. Virga can evaporate before reaching the ground. Wind can carry drops. Radar can miss shallow precipitation. There are explanations for rain appearing where a person does not expect it. But clear air rainfall over multiple sites with identical pulse intervals during a regional flood warning near a live AM relay path is no longer routine. At 9:45 p.m., I placed a call to Dr. Idris Vaughan, an atmospheric chemist at Meridian University's Environmental Sciences Division. Dr. Vaughan has consulted for this station on air quality advisories twice in the past 2 years. She agreed to come on the line briefly. I am summarizing her remarks with her permission. Dr. Vaughan said the first and most likely explanation for a rain event that appears rhythmic is a phenomenon called cellular convection. In certain atmospheric conditions, precipitation can organize itself into repeating structures, small cells of updraft and downdraft that produce, from the ground, a sensation of pulsing. She has observed this personally. It is unusual but not impossible. She said the atmosphere is a physical system, and physical systems can oscillate. I asked her whether cellular convection could produce a rhythm that a person, standing on a porch, could count. She paused for what felt like a long time. Then she said the honest answer is that cellular convection produces pulses on the order of tens of seconds to a few minutes, not the interval callers are describing. The callers are describing intervals of 1 to 2 seconds. Consistent, countable, she said. That is not a weather rhythm. That is a mechanical rhythm. If it is real, it is not coming from the sky. I asked her what would cause a mechanical rhythm to appear in rainfall over an area of 3 counties. She said she did not know. She said she wanted to look at data before she said anything more. She said she would call the station back within the hour. That was 48 minutes ago. She has not called back. I am not concerned about Dr. Vaughan personally. She is a professional. She may be on the phone with a colleague. She may have driven to her lab. I mentioned the delay only because I promised I would tell you what I know. And what I know is that she said she would call, and she has not. At 9:52 p.m., Hartwell County Dispatch reported 43 weather-related calls in the last hour. 43 reports do not mean 43 emergencies. It means 43 data points. Most are ordinary flooding. 6 involve rain sounds inside dry structures. 4 involve radio static carrying rainfall. 3 involve rain falling where radar shows no cloud support. 2 involve water accumulation without impact. 1 involves a missing observation, not a missing person, a missing observation. A volunteer weather watcher in Bracken Mill submitted an hourly report at 9 p.m. His log contains temperature, pressure, humidity, wind speed, and rainfall. The rainfall field is blank, not 0, blank. The station camera shows him standing beside the gauge with a flashlight. The gauge is overflowing. The log field is blank. When asked by phone why he left it empty, he reportedly said, "The rain would not let me count it. That could be stress. That could be a joke. That could be a person overwhelmed by a strange night." But his next report, at 9:15 p.m., included only one line, "Still falling, no measurement." At 9:48 p.m., his phone disconnected. The sheriff's office sent a unit for a welfare check. We do not have the result yet. No missing person has been confirmed. We will stay with verified information. But the first human silence has entered the story. That always changes the room. I need to describe something now. I need to describe it carefully. At approximately 10:02 p.m., Ellery came into the on-air booth and set a pair of headphones down in front of me. He did not speak. He gestured for me to put them on. I did. He pressed play on a handheld recorder. The recorder held audio from a rain gauge station operated by the Hartwell County Environmental Monitoring Office. This is not a broadcasting station. It is a small, unmanned instrument on a pole in a field near Larkspur Bend. It measures rainfall. It logs data. It also records ambient audio, because the office uses acoustic analysis to distinguish rain from hail, sleet, roof runoff, and field impact. The audio is normally deleted every 24 hours. Ellery has a friend in that office who pulled today's file before it was overwritten. The recording is 13 hours long. Ellery played me a 30-second segment from the middle of it, taken at approximately 3 this afternoon. I heard rain. That is the first thing I want to say. I heard rain, the way rain sounds when it hits grass and soil and the metal cap of a gauge. It sounded ordinary. Underneath the rain, there was something else. I want to be precise. I am not going to tell you it was a voice. It was not a voice. It was a pattern, a repeated pattern, buried in the noise, at a low volume, at a steady interval. It sounded to me like the way a modem used to sound in the 1990s when it was connecting. Not identical, similar. A structured, non-random signal hidden inside what should have been random noise. Ellery let me listen to it twice. Then he took the headphones back. He told me the pattern is present in every segment of the recording he has checked so far. He has checked 6 segments across the 13 hours. He said the pattern is not identical in each segment. It varies, but it is always structured. I want to give you every ordinary explanation for this, in the order they came to my mind. It could be electrical interference from the gauge's own circuitry. Ellery says the gauge is battery-powered and shielded. He does not think so. It could be a nearby transmitter bleeding into the audio. There is no licensed transmitter within 4 miles of that gauge. Ellery has checked. It could be a hoax. Someone at the Environmental Monitoring Office could have inserted the pattern into the file. Ellery says he would trust his friend with his life. It could be a coincidence of noise, a pareidolia of the ear, the same way we hear voices in fans. That is the explanation I want to be true. It is the explanation I am telling myself right now. But Dr. Vaughan told me less than 20 minutes ago that if the rhythm was real, it was not coming from the sky. She did not say what it might be coming from instead. Then, at 10:08 p.m., the county communications office performed a controlled test. This was not a public test. It was not a tone played over the air. It was a closed-line pulse sent through a county maintenance channel to a repeater at Haversham Ridge. The pulse was silent to the public. It did not include words. It was not transmitted by AM radio. It was a simple spacing test. 3 short pulses, 1 long pause, 2 short pulses, another long pause. The test lasted 12 seconds. The office expected nothing unusual. If the rainfall pattern was being caused by public broadcast audio, a closed maintenance pulse should not affect it. If the rainfall pattern was coincidence, it should not respond at all. At 10:09 p.m., exactly 14 seconds after the closed line pulse ended, 4 rain gauges changed pattern. Not all gauges, only 4. Haversham Ridge, North Orchard Vale, the transmitter shed behind this building, and the gauge at the old Bracken Mill water tower. Each gauge recorded 3 sharp accumulations, 1 pause, 2 sharp accumulations, a longer pause, then returned to the previous pattern. That is the same structure as the closed line pulse. 3. Pause. 2. Pause. The closed line pulse was not broadcast publicly. The public did not hear it. Most station staff did not hear it. The county did not announce it. Yet the rain pattern changed at sites connected by the relay path. The communications office has now suspended all non-essential signal testing. I am going to say this carefully. Investigators are no longer treating the rain only as precipitation. They are treating it as a possible response medium. That does not mean the rain is alive. That does not mean it understands speech. That does not mean anyone has solved what is happening. It means water falling through the region may be carrying, reflecting, or reproducing structured information. The rain answered a signal, or something used the rain to answer. Those are not the same statement. Both are bad. At 10:14 p.m., Hartwell County Emergency Management replaced the previous advisory. The statement reads, "Due to a verified correlation between regional rainfall patterns and closed communications infrastructure, all agencies are directed to suspend non-essential transmission tests. Public broadcasters should continue emergency communication at stable output levels. Residents should not attempt homemade radio, audio, speaker, siren, or tone experiments involving rainfall. That is the first official warning against experimenting. Please follow it. Do not go outside with speakers. Do not play tones into the rain. Do not record rain and play it back loudly. Do not try to match the pattern. Do not live stream experiments for attention. This is not a challenge. This is not a puzzle for your porch. The people studying this have controlled equipment, insulated lines, timing references, and emergency authority. Even with all of that, they have just stopped testing." At 10:18 p.m., this station received a message from a listener in Eastwater. The message includes a detail not broadcast publicly. The listener wrote that the rain outside her apartment began falling in groups of 3, then 2. That happened before we mentioned the test. She sent the message at 10:11 p.m. We received it at 10:12 p.m. We are reading it now at 10:18 p.m. That means at least one person observed the response pattern before the public was told there had been a response pattern. The message is being forwarded to county communications. There is another detail. She says she only noticed the pattern because her child was tapping it back on the window. 3 taps, pause, 2 taps, pause. Then the rain outside the glass stopped. Not everywhere, just on that window, for approximately 7 seconds. Then the child began crying and would not touch the glass again. No injury was reported, no damage was reported, but the parent says the silence on the window felt aimed. We do not know what to do with that word, aimed. The night began as a storm, then it became a pattern. Now it has become an exchange. That is why you should keep radios at normal volume. That is why you should avoid unnecessary noise near windows, drains, metal roofs, empty tanks, and standing water. That is why the official language has changed from monitoring rainfall to monitoring response. If you thought you understood the situation 15 minutes ago, you did not. Neither did we. At 10:24 p.m., this station received a call from a woman who identified herself as Nadine Purser. She said she lives on Quarry Row, in the small unincorporated stretch between Tallow Creek and Haversham Ridge. She asked whether we had received an earlier call from her, at approximately 6 o'clock this evening. We had not. She said she remembered calling. She said she remembered leaving a message on our public line, describing a leak in her ceiling that was falling in a straight line onto her kitchen floor without spreading. She said she remembered the sound of her own voice on the recording. Ellery checked the public line. There is no message from Nadine Purser at 6 o'clock. There is no message from her at any time before 10:24. I want to be careful about how I frame this. Memory is not reliable in a long storm. People confuse the intention to call with the act of calling. Miss Purser may have meant to call and never dialed. That is the ordinary explanation, and I am giving it to you first. But I asked her, before she hung up, to describe the leak in her kitchen. She said the leak had stopped about an hour ago. She said the water had not pooled. She said the floor was dry. She said she had watched the water come down in a straight line for almost 2 hours, and when it stopped, there was nothing on the tile. She said, "It came in and it left. I don't know where it went." I do not have an explanation for that. At 10:31 p.m., the county issued an additional instruction. It is short. It reads, "Residents are advised not to tap, knock, clap, whistle, speak repeated phrases, or produce intentional rhythm near exterior glass, standing water, drains, metal roofing, exposed pipes, or radio equipment." The public version does not include the phrase "Ellery saw" in the internal version. The internal version says, "Do not tap back." I am aware that this broadcast has shifted in the last hour from a weather report to something else. I am not going to name what it has shifted into because I do not yet know. I am going to stay with confirmed information. I am going to keep the two categories separate, the way I promised. But before we move into the next hour, I want to note one small thing. When my daughter was 6, she went through a period of drawing rain in her notebooks. She drew it as vertical lines. Every child draws rain as vertical lines, but she drew it, always, with small marks between the lines, little dashes. When I asked her what the dashes were, she said they were the parts of the rain that were quiet. I have not thought about that in 3 years. I am thinking about it now. It is 11 p.m. The rain has been falling for 22 hours and 10 minutes. At 10:50, the Merrill County Office of Emergency Management issued a second public update. I am going to read the important part, and I want you to listen for the changes. The statement says, "Precipitation across the county remains persistent. Localized ponding has been reported in low-lying areas of Gray Hollow Valley, Orchard Vale, and along the eastern edge of Tallow Creek. Residents are advised to remain indoors unless travel is necessary. Residents are further advised to avoid prolonged direct observation of standing water. No evacuation orders are in effect at this time." I want to draw your attention to one sentence. Residents are advised to avoid prolonged direct observation of standing water. I have worked in broadcasting in this region for 19 years. I have read hundreds of emergency management advisories. I have never seen that sentence before. Emergency advisories tell you to avoid driving on flooded roads. They tell you to avoid contact with floodwater because of contamination. They do not, in my experience, tell you to avoid looking at it. I placed a call to the emergency management office at 10:54. The line rang for 2 minutes before a woman answered. She was not the person who normally handles media inquiries. She would not give me her name. She confirmed that the advisory was authentic. She confirmed that the fourth sentence was intentional. When I asked her to explain what prolonged direct observation meant in practical terms, she said, "It means what it says." Then she asked me not to call back. She hung up. I am telling you what she said because you deserve to hear it in the same words I heard it. I am not telling you what it means because I do not know, but I am going to follow the advisory. If you have standing water visible from any window in your home, close the curtain on that window for the next hour. I am not doing this because I believe the water is dangerous to look at. I am doing it because the people whose job it is to know are asking us to, and because it costs nothing. At 11:06 p.m., the Office of Civil Continuity issued its first state-level advisory. This is broader than the county. It covers Merrow, Hartwell, Clearwater, Eastwater, 3 coastal municipalities, and parts of the Upper Valley. The statement reads, "Residents in affected areas should remain indoors unless directed to evacuate due to flooding. Avoid unnecessary interaction with rainfall, standing water, drainage openings, metal roofs, large empty rooms, public address systems, radio transmitters, and acoustic amplification devices. Do not attempt to reproduce observed rainfall patterns. That advisory is unusual because it groups physical and acoustic hazards together. Rainfall, standing water, drainage openings, metal roofs, empty rooms, public address systems, radio transmitters. Those do not belong in the same sentence during an ordinary storm. They belong together only if officials believe the event can move through both water and signal. At 11:12 p.m., the state confirmed reports from outside the original rain zone. A weather station in dry desert air 200 miles west recorded structured rainfall audio on an external microphone. No precipitation reached the ground there. The sky was clear. Humidity was low. The microphone was mounted near a microwave relay. The audio contained the same 3-pause-2 pattern recorded after the closed line test. That is important. The water did not travel there. Between 10:30 and 11, this station received 43 additional reports. That number matters. 43 reports do not mean 43 emergencies. It means 43 data points with overlapping details. I want to describe the shape of them, not the volume. The reports are coming from a wider area than before. The first cluster tonight was along a stretch of road roughly 6 miles long. The current cluster covers portions of 4 counties: Merrow, Hartwell, Clearwater, and the southern edge of a county I am not going to name because we have not verified the reports from there yet, and I do not want to spread inaccurate geography during a storm. The reports share a new detail. They involve water behaving as though it has a destination. A man in Orchard Vale reported that runoff from his gutters was not following the natural slope of his yard. It was flowing uphill, not fast, slowly. He watched it for 11 minutes before he called us. A woman near Haversham Ridge reported that her basement, which floods every spring, was completely dry, while the ground floor of her house had a thin film of water across the kitchen floor. She had not left windows open. She had not left doors open. She said the water was there when she came downstairs to make tea. A dispatcher at the Clearwater County Sheriff's Office, calling in a personal capacity and not as an official spokesperson, reported that 3 separate patrol units had radioed to say their windshields were beating rain in patterns that resembled writing, not letters, patterns. She said the patterns were not identical from car to car, but each pattern on each windshield was repeating. I want to be careful again. Windshields bead water in strange ways. Runoff can follow small grades invisible to the eye. A basement can stay dry for reasons no one understands. Every one of those explanations is available, but we are past the point where each report can be explained by itself. The reports are no longer isolated. They are describing a single phenomenon from different angles. Water that is moving where it should not. water that is arriving where it was not. Water that is patterned. At 11:23 p.m., Public Works reported that water levels at Tallow Creek dropped by 2 inches. That sounds good. It is not. The creek level dropped while surrounding fields continued flooding. Water is leaving the channel without entering the banks in the normal way. Thermal cameras show cold lines moving across the floodplain, forming branching paths. Not rivers, not streams, lines. A drone sent over the area lost GPS lock within 30 seconds. Its video feed continued for another minute. The last usable frame reportedly shows standing water forming a pattern around fence posts, power poles, and metal gates. The water avoided the open field. It gathered around conductors. That is a new category. The event may be using infrastructure, not just reacting to it, using it. At 11:29 p.m., several public websites stopped updating rainfall maps. The official reason is server load. That may be true. Traffic is high. But a cached version of the state hydrology map briefly displayed an overlay no one has claimed responsibility for adding. The overlay marked roads, antennas, flood channels, hospitals, schools, and shelters. Then it drew lines between them. Not straight lines, curved lines, arcs. The arcs crossed at 3 points. Haversham Ridge Relay, Eastwater Pumping Station, Clearwater High School Shelter. Those 3 locations have all reported unusual rainfall sounds. The overlay disappeared after approximately 20 seconds. The state says it was a rendering artifact. A rendering artifact can create strange shapes, but it does not usually label them. According to screenshots now under review, one of the arcs was labeled Return Path. That label does not appear in the public mapping software. At 11:34 p.m., I reached Marcus Trell, a signal infrastructure specialist who has consulted for regional emergency communications since the 1990s. Mr. Trell has come on this station before to explain unusual radio interference during storms. He agreed to speak briefly. I am summarizing with his permission. I began by describing the Larkspur Bend rain gauge recording. I did not tell him what I thought it was. I asked him what would produce a structured pattern buried in ambient rainfall audio. He said without hesitation that the most likely cause was a fault in the gauge's own analog-to-digital converter. He explained that certain low-cost converters produce repeating artifacts when exposed to consistent input over long durations. He said this is a known issue. He said he would expect the pattern to be identical in every segment of the recording. I told him Ellery had reported that the pattern was not identical. It varied. He was silent for a moment. Then he said, the second most likely cause was electromagnetic interference from a nearby power line cycling at mains frequency. He asked whether the gauge was near a power line. I told him the gauge is in a field. The nearest power line is more than a mile away. He said the third explanation would be a deliberate insertion by a person with access to the file. I told him Ellery had ruled that out. He was silent for longer this time. When he spoke again, he said he wanted to be careful. He said a structured pattern that varies but repeats, embedded in ambient audio across a wide geographic area in an environment with no obvious source, is not something he has an ordinary explanation for. He repeated that idea 3 times in the next 2 minutes. Marcus Trell is not a man who repeats himself. I asked him whether the pattern could be a signal, something intentional, something with content. He said the honest answer is that any structured, repeating, varying pattern in a noise medium meets the technical definition of a signal. Whether that signal has content is a separate question. It is not one he could answer without weeks of analysis. Then I told him about the closed-line pulse test, the 3-pause-2 response, the 4 gauges, the transmitter shed. He did not speak for nearly 15 seconds. When he came back, his tone had changed. He said a closed maintenance pulse should not alter rainfall. It should not alter a gauge. It should not produce a corresponding physical pattern through water. Radio interference affects receivers. It does not teach the sky a rhythm. He said, the problem is not whether it is a signal. The problem is that it is in the rain. At 11:43 p.m., Dr. Vaughan sent a written update. She says the event may have 3 layers. Layer 1 is conventional storm rainfall. That is real rain from real clouds. It floods roads. It fills creeks. It threatens homes. Layer 2 is structured rainfall behavior. That is rain or water-like accumulation, matching intervals, signals, and physical infrastructure. Layer 3 is non-local replication. That is the appearance of the pattern in places not connected by ordinary rainfall. Microphones, speakers, dry tanks, drains, digital clocks, maps. She says layer 1 can be forecast. Layer 2 can be measured. Layer 3 cannot currently be bounded. That means officials do not know how far the event can travel if it does not require clouds. At 11:48 p.m., the Office of Civil Continuity removed the word weather from its advisory header. The previous header read, Regional Weather and Flood Advisory. The new header reads, Regional Environmental Signal Advisory. There it is, signal. They are using the word now. At 11:52 p.m., the station's backdoor alarm triggered. The back door opens onto the loading dock I mentioned earlier. It has a magnetic contact sensor that chirps softly at the security panel when the door is opened. The door had not been opened. The alarm was reading the door as open. Ellery went to check. The door was closed and locked. He reset the sensor. It read closed for approximately 40 seconds. Then it read open again. He unplugged the sensor. The alarm panel now reads the door as offline. He is standing near it, watching it, as I speak. While he was standing there, he noticed something on the loading dock. He came back inside and asked me to look. I did. There is a pattern on the concrete. The rain, falling under the eave of the dock, is not hitting the concrete randomly. It is falling in bands. Not a picture, not a word. A pattern. Bands of wetness alternating with bands of dryness, running parallel across the dock. The bands are approximately 4 inches wide. They are not moving. The rain is falling. The bands are not changing. I stood there for a full minute. I want to tell you that I was analyzing what I saw. I was not. I was standing there because I did not know what to do next. We want to remind listeners that you are tuned to Fictional Radio Broadcast, continuing to monitor this developing situation. We are staying on the air. We will stay on the air as long as we are able. I want to say one more thing before the next segment. When I came back inside from the loading dock, I called my mother's house. I called to check on my daughter. The phone rang 8 times. There is an answering machine on that line. It did not pick up. The phone kept ringing. It is still ringing now on the line next to me because I did not hang up. I will be honest with you. I do not know what to do with that ringing. I am going to leave it open. If someone picks up, I will hear it. At 12:04 a.m. Tuesday, Ellery came into the booth again. He had a printout in his hand. He set it in front of me. The printout was from our own equipment. This station operates a small weather monitoring package on the roof, primarily to provide local temperature and humidity readings during broadcasts. The package includes a rain gauge. It is not sophisticated. It is a tipping bucket design that logs a tick every 100th of an inch of rainfall. The printout showed the last 6 hours of tick data. For the first 4 hours, the ticks are regular. They accelerate slightly as rainfall intensifies, then slow, then accelerate again. That is what you would expect. For the last 2 hours, the ticks are perfectly evenly spaced. Ellery ran the numbers. The interval between ticks in the last 2 hours is 1.720 seconds, consistently. The standard deviation is smaller than the tolerance of the instrument. In plain language, our rain gauge is now producing a reading that is more regular than the gauge itself is capable of producing. That is not weather. That is not a rain gauge. That is something using a rain gauge. At 12:09 a.m., the studio phone line lit up without ringing. Line 2. The display showed no caller ID. We did not answer it on air. Ellery isolated the line. The line remained active for 18 seconds. During that time, the hallway recorder captured rainfall audio from inside the phone receiver cradle. The phone itself was not lifted. After the line disconnected, the display changed. It briefly showed the number 1320, then went blank. That could be an internal fault. That could be power noise. That could be the system reflecting our own station frequency. But it happened at the same time our rain gauge became impossibly regular. At 12:16 a.m., the rain outside the east wall dropped in volume. The roof rain remains loud. The street remains flooded, but the east wall rain is now quiet, too quiet. Ellery says the transmitter mast is still radiating normally. The carrier is stable. We are not changing power. We are not shutting down unless ordered, or unless the equipment becomes unsafe. At 12:21 a.m., we received a new advisory. The statement reads, "The ongoing event demonstrates coupling between rainfall behavior, acoustic structure, and communications infrastructure. Residents should avoid deliberate interaction with rainfall patterns. Public agencies should preserve logs but refrain from non-essential testing. Do not interpret temporary local cessation of rainfall as safety. Temporary local cessation. That phrase means rain may stop in one place while the event continues. Officials are warning people not to trust a dry patch. At 12:24 a.m., the rain stopped outside our east wall, only the east wall. The roof still receives rain. The street still receives rain. The west windows still receive rain. But the wall facing the transmitter mast is dry. The dry area is shaped like a vertical rectangle, roughly the size of a door. There is no door on that wall. Ellery is asking me not to stand near it. I am not near it. At 12:27 a.m., the dry rectangle moved 6 inches to the left. Rain is falling around it. Not through it. Around it. That means the absence is moving. We often talk about storms moving. We do not talk about dry places moving through storms. But that is what the camera shows. The absence is moving toward the corner of the building closest to the transmitter line. At 12:31 a.m., the paper boat on my console moved. There is no airflow in the room. The fan is off. The door is closed. The boat moved about half an inch toward the phone line. I am leaving it where it is. I know that sounds small, a paper boat moving on a wet night, but sometimes the smallest thing is the one that makes your hands stop over the controls. My daughter folded that boat this morning. It was dry when I came in. It is dry now. The floor around it is dry. The phone is still ringing. The wall outside is dry in a moving shape. The phone displayed our frequency, and the rain is quieter when I stop speaking. I am going to continue speaking, because silence may also be a signal. It is 1 a.m. The rain has been falling for 24 hours and 10 minutes. I want to give you the shape of the last hour, because it is important that someone, somewhere, has a record of it that is not filtered through an official channel. Between midnight and 12:50, this station received 118 reports. I am not going to describe them individually. I am going to describe what happened when Ellery plotted them on a map. He used a paper map. Our digital mapping software began producing errors around 12:15, coordinates that pointed to places not on the map, and Ellery decided he did not trust it. He printed a regional map from a cached file and marked each report with a pin. The pins do not form a random distribution. They do not form a weather pattern. They form a shape. Ellery does not know what the shape is. Neither do I. It is not a word. It is not a symbol I recognize. It is, in his description, a shape that has corners where corners should not be. I am going to give you the extent of it, because the extent is the confirmed part. The reports now cover portions of 11 counties. They extend approximately 140 miles east to west, and approximately 90 miles north to south. There are gaps inside that area, regions where no reports have come in. The gaps are not random either. Ellery says the gaps have the same corners as the shape. I am going to stop describing the shape now. I am going to leave it as I have described it. If you are somewhere that this broadcast can reach, and you have a map of this region, and you have been marking things, you may already know what I am talking about. At 1:08 a.m., the state advisory expanded again. Reports now include 5 states, 2 coastal buoys, 1 desert relay station, and 3 aircraft at cruising altitude. The aircraft reports are important. Rain cannot reach a plane above the storm layer in the ordinary way. Pilots are not reporting water on the windshield. They are reporting rain sounds in headset audio. In one case, the sound appeared only when the pilot tuned near an AM emergency frequency. In another, the sound appeared over a cabin intercom that was not actively transmitting. No aircraft emergency has been declared. Air traffic control is routing flights away from affected signal corridors where possible. Aviation officials are treating this as an interference issue. That is the safest operational category. But the reports connect the event upward, not just ground, not just pipes, not just transmitters. Air. At 1:14 a.m., the coastal buoy sample returned a second preliminary result. The droplets are fresh water. They also contain a dissolved mineral profile inconsistent with local rainfall. The lab says the sample resembles no recent precipitation archive from this region. That does not mean the water is alien. It does not mean the water is manufactured. It means the water is not behaving like it came from the storm system above us. Dr. Vaughan has requested isotope testing. That will not return tonight. At 1:20 a.m., a second hydrology map briefly showed arcs. This time, screenshots captured 4 labels. Return path, listening surface, dry window, carrier basin. Those labels have not been confirmed by the state. Officials again describe the overlay as a software artifact, but a software artifact should not use terms now appearing in private technical discussions. That suggests one of three things. Someone with internal access is leaking or manipulating the map. The software is drawing from hidden fields no one intended to publish, or the event is affecting the way systems display information. The first is a security problem. The second is a data problem. The third is something we do not yet have language for. At 1:28 a.m., Dr. Idris Vaughan called the station back. I want to describe the call carefully, because I think it is the most important call I have taken tonight, and because I do not know if I will be able to describe it again later. She sounded tired. She said she was calling from her office at Meridian University. She said she had spent the last 3 hours looking at every data set she could access, including some she was not supposed to access. She said she wanted to give me the best explanation she could construct. Then she wanted to tell me why it was wrong. Her best explanation was this: under very rare conditions, a persistent atmospheric layer can trap electromagnetic activity generated by lightning at great distances. That trapped activity can, in theory, modulate the fall of precipitation in ways that produce apparent structure. She said this is a theoretical mechanism. It has never been observed at this scale. It is, she said, the closest thing to a natural explanation for patterned rainfall that she can construct from known physics. She said it is wrong because the pattern has been present in the Larkspur Bend audio since the beginning of the storm. It has not built up. It has not grown. It was there in the first hour. The mechanism she described requires accumulation over time. This did not accumulate. This arrived. I asked her what she thought was happening. She was quiet for almost 30 seconds. Then she said she was going to say something she would not say on air if she thought anyone was still listening in a professional capacity. I told her I would not attribute it if she did not want me to. She said it did not matter. She said, the rain is not carrying the signal. The rain is the signal. The water is the medium, but the pattern is the message. I asked her what the message said. She said she did not know. She said no one alive knows. She said there might be someone, somewhere, who knew once. Then she said something else. She said the closed line response means the signal is not only being carried, it is selecting surfaces, a gauge, a speaker, a drain, a windshield, a phone line, a child's window. She said the event may not understand language the way we understand language, but it understands repeatability. It understands timing. It understands return. A minute later, Marcus Trell sent a separate note. He says the event may be using any system that converts energy into pattern. A radio does that. A siren does that. A pipe can do that. A roof can do that. A drain can do that. A child tapping on glass can do that. A person speaking over a broadcast can do that. He is not saying the event understands human language. He is saying human language is rich in pattern. Rain does not need to understand a sentence to copy its rhythm. But the closed line test still haunts the explanation. Because the rain did not merely copy a public rhythm, it responded to a private one. That suggests access, not ears, access. At 1:42 a.m., Dr. Vaughan sent one final written line before her lab went to restricted communications. It reads, "If this is feedback, the initiating signal is not ours." That is the sentence that breaks the last comfortable theory. A feedback loop needs an initial signal. Something starts it. A microphone squeals because the speaker emits sound. An echo returns because someone speaks. A wave reflects because something strikes the surface. If the initiating signal is not ours, then our broadcasts, sirens, drains, gauges, roofs, and voices are not creating the event. They are giving it surfaces. They are giving it ways to return. At 1:49 a.m., the Office of Civil Continuity issued its coldest advisory yet. The statement reads, "No all clear has been issued for any affected region. Do not assume reduced rainfall indicates reduced hazard. Avoid repeated sound patterns near water-bearing surfaces. Keep essential communication active at low volume. Await verified instructions. Do not attempt to determine whether the rainfall is responsive. That last instruction is the hardest one. Do not attempt to determine whether the rainfall is responsive. Human beings are built to test. We hear a knock, we knock back. We hear a pattern, we complete it. We see a question, we answer. Tonight, that instinct may be unsafe. Do not knock back. Do not complete the rhythm. Do not ask the rain a question. At 1:58 a.m., the lights in the studio dimmed. They did not go out. They dimmed, held at a lower brightness for approximately 4 seconds, and then returned to normal. Ellery, in the engineering room, says the generator did not falter. The draw did not spike. The power did not dip. Something else caused the lights to dim. I want to describe the studio to you because I think that helps me stay in it. The on-air booth is a small room, roughly 10 feet by 12, with acoustic paneling on the walls and a single window that looks into the engineering room. The window has a set of blinds. The blinds are closed. They have been closed since I sat down at 2:01 a.m. 3 minutes after the lights dimmed. I noticed the blinds were moving, not swaying, moving, in a rhythm, a slow, small, side-to-side motion. At an interval I did not want to time, because I did not want to know if the interval was 1.720 seconds. Ellery came into the booth. He looked at the blinds. He did not say anything. He walked to the window. He put his hand on the blinds. They stopped moving. He held his hand there for a full minute. Then he took his hand away. The blinds did not move again. I am telling you this because it happened. I am not telling you what caused it. There is no draft in this room. There is no vibration from the generator that would reach this window. There is no one else in the building. The phone on the desk next to me has been ringing, at my mother's house, for more than 2 hours. It has not been answered. It has not disconnected. The line is still open. I can hear, if I lean toward it, the ambient sound of my mother's kitchen. I can hear the refrigerator hum. I can hear the wall clock. I cannot hear anyone in the room. I want to be honest with you about something. My daughter, whose name I have not said on air tonight and will not, is 9 years old. She stays at my mother's house on Monday nights because I work irregular overnight shifts, and my mother likes to have her early in the week. That is the arrangement. It has been the arrangement for 3 years, since her mother, my wife, died. I have not talked about my wife on air tonight. I am not going to. I am mentioning her only because I need you to understand that when I called my mother's house at 11:52, I was not calling to check on a routine sleepover. I was calling because when the world becomes strange, you call the small number of people who make it feel less strange. I have a very small number of those people. My daughter is one of them. The phone is still ringing. I am going to leave it ringing. I am not going to hang up until someone answers, or until this broadcast ends. Those are the two conditions. At 2:12 a.m., the studio monitor began receiving our broadcast with a delay. That is normal in some systems. A delay can happen because of processing, relay paths, or monitoring chains. This delay is not normal. It is increasing. 5 seconds, 9 seconds, 17 seconds, then 1 minute and 12 seconds. At 2:16 a.m., the delayed audio played a sentence I had not said yet. It was my voice. It said, "Keep the receiver low, but do not turn it off." I had not said that sentence. I am saying it now because the delayed monitor already did. Keep the receiver low, but do not turn it off. Ellery has disconnected the studio monitor. The line remains silent. The hallway recorder is still running. At 2:21 a.m., the paper boat on the console became wet. Not from above, not from below. The paper darkened from the center outward. The folded edges remain dry. Only the center is wet. There is writing on the inside fold. I did not know that. My daughter must have written it before folding. Ellery unfolded it with gloves. The ink has blurred, but 2 words remain readable. Come home. I am not going to turn that into a sign. I am not going to tell you the rain wrote it. My daughter wrote it, this morning, before any of this happened. But the rain found the part of the paper where those words were hidden. That is enough. At 2:27 a.m., the studio phone display lit again. The phone lines are disabled except emergency coordination. The display shows no number, only text. It reads, "Continue," then "Lower," then "Listen." We are not obeying the display. We are following human emergency instruction. The display may be a fault. It may be interference. It may be manipulation. We do not take orders from a wet phone. Ellery just smiled when I said that. It is the first time anyone in this room has smiled in an hour. That matters too. Fear narrows the room. A small human reaction widens it again. Hold on to that. At 2:35 a.m., the hallway recorder stopped. The final recorded sound is not static. It is rain. Then my own voice, delayed again, saying a sentence I have not said and will not repeat. Ellery has written it down. He has covered the page. We are not reading it on air. Some information does not become safer when shared. That may be the strangest lesson of this broadcast. Newsrooms are built to share. Emergency stations are built to repeat. But tonight, repetition may be material. A sentence can become a surface. A pattern can become a path. A warning can become an invitation if spoken the wrong way too often. So we are narrowing now. Practical information, human information, no experiments, no rhythms, no invitations. It is 2:42 a.m. I am going to speak to you directly now, not as a broadcaster, as a person at a desk, talking to another person, wherever you are. I do not know if you are in a house, a car, an apartment, or a shelter. I do not know if you have children asleep in the next room, or if you are alone. I do not know if the rain outside your window is the same rain falling here, or if it stopped hours ago, and you are listening because you cannot sleep. I do not know any of that. I can only tell you what I would want someone to tell me. If the rain has been falling where you are for more than 12 hours, and if it has been consistent, and if it has been the same rain, I want you to do a small thing. Find a room in your home that does not have a window. If you cannot find a room without a window, close the curtains on the windows you have. Turn off the faucet in your kitchen and bathroom all the way, and check that they are not dripping. Check the ceiling in every room. If you see any water, any at all, move to a different room. Do not stand near drains, culverts, metal fences, large speakers, public address systems, or rooms where rainfall is heard without visible water. Keep one information source active at low volume. Do not turn every device off at once. Do not gather around a window because the rain has stopped there. A dry window is not an all clear. A quiet roof is not an all clear. A silent drain is not an all clear. If you hear rain from inside a wall, move away from that wall. If water appears in a sink, tub, floor drain, or basement without a visible source, do not touch it. Leave the room if you can. If a child taps the pattern, gently move their hand away. Do not scold them. Do not tell them the rain is answering. Give them something else to hold. A flashlight, a blanket, a toy, a paper boat if you must. But do not put that boat in the water. Not tonight. If your radio speaks before the host speaks, lower the volume. Do not answer it. If your phone shows 172, turn the screen face down and move away from exposed water. Do not photograph it repeatedly. Do not post it with music. Do not make it into a game. If rain stops only above your house while continuing across the street, do not go outside to celebrate. Move away from exterior walls. Wait for official instruction. If you are alone, speak normally. Do not whisper to the rain. Do not challenge it. Do not ask what it wants. And if you are with someone frightened, say ordinary things. Say the kettle is off. Say the shoes are by the door. Say the flashlight works. Say you are here. Ordinary words are anchors. Use them. My daughter, when she was 7, went through a phase of being afraid of the rain. Not storms. Rain. She said the rain sounded like it was talking. I told her at the time that rain does not talk. Rain is water falling from clouds. It hits things. It makes sound. The sound is not language. That is what I told her. I believed it. I still want to believe it. But I want to say, for the record, in case she ever hears this, that I am sorry I told her that with such certainty. I did not know then what I do not know now. I should have said, I do not hear language in it, but I believe that you do, and I will sit with you while you listen. That is what I should have said. If you have a child in your house tonight, and they say the rain sounds like something, do not correct them too quickly. Sit with them. Let them tell you what they hear. Write it down, if you can. I do not know that this will matter. I do not know that anything will matter. But if a child hears a thing that an adult cannot, tonight, of all nights, I would like there to be a record. At 2:53 a.m., the rain outside the station has stopped. All of it. Roof, street, west windows, east wall, transmitter yard. For the first time in more than 25 hours, I cannot hear rain. Ellery is looking at the exterior camera. The street is still flooded. The tower beacon is still dark. The mast is visible. The air looks wrong without water in it. We have not received an all clear. I repeat, No all clear has been issued. Do not assume this silence is safety. At 2:55 a.m., the transmitter monitor shows a signal returning from outside our broadcast path. That should not happen. AM transmission goes outward. Receivers receive. Transmitters transmit. A return signal on the transmitter monitor means something is coupling back into the system. Ellery says it is weak. It is centered near our carrier. It is not voice. It is not music. It is structured. We are not playing it. We are not amplifying it. We are not interpreting it. At 2:57 a.m., the first drop hit the roof. Just one, then another, then nothing, then three. I am not counting further. It is 2:58 a.m. The phone on my desk has stopped ringing. I did not hang it up. It stopped on its own, approximately 4 minutes ago. The line did not disconnect. The line is still open, but the ringing has ceased. When I lean toward it, I can no longer hear my mother's kitchen. I hear something else. I am not going to describe what I hear. I am not going to hold the receiver up to the microphone. I am going to let it be private, between me and the line. I am going to make one more call after this broadcast ends. I am going to drive to the house if the roads will allow. Ellery has offered to come with me. I have told him no. Someone needs to stay with the signal. The rain has not stopped. According to our rooftop gauge, the interval between ticks is now 1.414 seconds. Ellery has pointed out that 1.414 is approximately the square root of 2. He said this the way an engineer says a thing when he does not want to say what he is really thinking. I understood him. I do not have a resolution to give you tonight. I do not have an all clear. There has been no announcement from any agency in the last hour. The National Weather Cooperative's feed has not resumed. The Merrill County Office of Emergency Management has not posted a further advisory. The low-power AM station in northern Hartwell County is still transmitting what sounds like rain. I want to say, since I am not sure I will have another chance, that I hope whoever is on air there is warm and dry and has someone to talk to. I have been on this desk for 9 hours. I came in early because Marley did not answer her phone. I still do not know why she did not answer. I would like to think she is safe. I would like to think a lot of things. I am going to sign off in a moment. I want to leave you with one observation, which I am giving you as an observation and not as a conclusion. At the beginning of this broadcast, 6.5 hours ago, I asked you a question. I asked when was the last time you heard the rain change. I did not know then that it was a question worth asking. I know now. If you are listening to this recording later, at some point in the future, when the rain has stopped, or has not stopped, or has become something you no longer call rain, I want you to know that on this Monday night into this Tuesday morning, in Merrill County, a small AM station stayed on the air for as long as it could. We told you what we knew. We told you when we did not know. We did not guess out loud, except once, at the end, when a scientist I trust guessed for us, and I passed it along because it was the only guess anyone had. The rain, she said, is the signal. I do not know what it is saying. I hope, when we find out, that it is saying our names kindly. At 3:02 a.m., Emergency Management has instructed us to reduce live speech and switch to low-density advisory rotation. That means shorter updates, longer gaps, no repeated pattern language, no live calls, no audio from rainfall, no unnecessary description of the signal. We will remain on carrier as long as it is safe. The official guidance remains unchanged. Stay indoors unless flooding forces movement. Move away from drains, metal surfaces, large speakers, and unexplained indoor rainfall sounds. Keep one low-volume information source active. Do not experiment. Do not answer patterns. Do not trust local silence. Await verified instructions. I am Daniel Hale. This has been AM 1720. If you are hearing us clearly, stay calm. If you are hearing rain underneath us, lower the volume. If the broadcast repeats something we have not said yet, do not respond. I am placing the paper boat in the drawer now. The drawer is dry. The room is quiet. The tower light is still out. There is water on the floor beneath the table, but it is no longer spreading. Ellery is signaling that we have 30 seconds before the advisory rotation begins. So I will say this plainly. The rain did not stop. It paused. And in that pause, something came back through the signal. You have been listening to Fictional Radio Broadcast, live reports from fictional events. This is Daniel Hale on AM 1720, signing off, for now, from a studio where the lights are still on, the equipment is still working, and the door to the loading dock is still, as far as I know, closed. Stay indoors. Close your curtains. Sit with your children if they hear something. And if the rain stops where you are, and it stops all at once, I would like you to notice what fills the silence. Good night.